Oh, Canada, welcome to Montreal for the latest round of the Precision Racing League Indy Pro 2000 Series. It's round 4, and we do head to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for today's action right here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside me in the booth is Oshin. Behind the scenes, Joe Peak, using cameras brought to us by Dougie Beard. This track plays out very much like a street circuit because, well, half of it is a street circuit. Why don't we take a closer look at it with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Host of the Canadian Grand Prix for over 40 years, this track's popularity among fans refuses to wane. Although it has gone through a few alterations in its history, the nature of its layout has remained pretty much the same. That nature, of course, is that its 14 turns are mostly chicanes, split up by long straights to add up to a 2.7-mile street course-like canyon of a track. These 4.3 kilometers are mainly made up of actual streets on the man-made Ile Notre Dame, though portions are specifically built for the racetrack. But whether or not fans consider it a true street course, the close barriers that line the majority of the track don't care what you think. Places like the exit of Turn 4 and Turn 9 frequently collect the greedy. But these pale in infamy to the notorious Wall of Champions. Named for its penchant to collect F1 World Champions, the corner itself is called Quebec. Regardless, it's a finicky and tight chicane with a critical corner exit, so drivers are tempted into edging the car as close as they dare to the concrete. Despite the numerous heavy braking zones, passing can be difficult at times for certain types of cars. Often, attrition or cut course penalties play a bigger part in who finishes where. While sports cars and NASCAR have both made stops here, this place is mainly known for its history with Formula One. Named after what is easily Canada's most popular driver in the International Open Wheel Series, this semi-temporary circuit looks like it's actually here to stay for a long, long time.
A look there at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Oshin, what more can you tell us about this great 4.3 kilometer circuit?
Well, I can tell you that it's 2.7 miles for those who don't know the kilometer conversion, and it's almost a street circuit. But it's a street circuit light, in a sense that it doesn't have that feel of huge towering blocks around you. But that's because it's built on the site where they held the 1967 Expo, and in fact that artificial lake you see, or that lake drag strip you see on the right side of the circuit from the aerial pictures, that is actually built for the 1976 Olympics. So it's kind of a park circuit slash street circuit, or as I always say, the Albert Park of Canada. It's a great circuit for racing, I think. It produces great racing for its long back straight, and great opportunities for side-by-side battles and crossovers and so on. But it's also a very dangerous circuit. And as typical with street circuits, you have to make sure to stay out of the walls, which is really obvious when you put it like that, which is really like a no-brainer, like no duh, stay off the walls. But it's more difficult than it sounds. And making as few mistakes as possible while keeping the pace consistent and keeping good rhythm will be of great value here today, Ryan.
Most certainly will be. What about that Wall of Champions? How many people are gonna get a piece of it today, if anyone? And as always, today's race is brought to you by Simsa. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. And you want to get your company involved with the Global Sim Racing Channel? Well, with over 1 million impressions each month, it is a great opportunity to get your brand seen by a wide, broad, and diverse audience. Head to the link in the description to find out more. Let's take a look at our championship then. After 3 rounds, this is how those driver standings look. Greg Seitz has a 7-point margin back to Nicholas Delp. It's 8 points back to Edie, 11 to Mark McDonald, and 28 to Liam Quinn. It is a very tight top 4, although Greg Seitz is looking ominously quick in practice. How do the team standings look there, Oshin?
Well, they look quite interesting. It's Rust Racing Iron just 7 points ahead of their sister team, Rust Racing Steel. Then we got 23 back from the lead to Team Talent 3 wide. Then it's RSR Esport 4th and Lavoy Motorsport 5th. 47 points behind the leaders. But nothing still decided and everything open for the grabs for the Team Championship glory.
Race details tell us about this. It's the same as we come to expect. We know and love. This is a great format. And for those new, what we got ahead of us?
Oh yes, if you're new here, well, you're in for a treat. 45 minutes of open wheel racing here at Montreal. Round 4 out of 10, so not even halfway through, but starting to get settled in. Open setups with these cars means you can fiddle with them a little bit, you can adjust with them a little bit, you wanna adjust them a little bit for these high curves. Drive through at 11 incidents, disqualification at 20 incidents. Don't want to be too rough, but that's not going to be an issue today really. And bonus points, one of them is already shared here early on from the pole position, then another one for fastest lap, and one more for 3 incidents or less. So being swift, being clean, those things, they are all rewarded here at PRL Indy 2000 Pro Elite Series.
Open setups means slightly varying fuel levels, but of course, you're going to need to make a pit stop before that fuel runs out. So let's introduce you to a new face in the booth today, DJ Clark, our in-race pit reporter. Talk to us, what can we expect from these drivers in terms of their pit strategy today?
Thanks, Ryan. We're going to be looking at about an 18-lap fuel window for these guys to hit. It's going to be a one-stop race, and that 18 laps should get them through on those 2 stints. They're going to lose about 34 to 35 seconds pit stop delta overall. Tires aren't going to play that much of an issue. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a relatively non-abrasive track. Anybody who chooses to put on a new set of boots on their pit stop, they may lose about a second in the pits with not a whole lot of time game on track, so we could see some varying strategy on whether or not guys decide to put on those tires.
Thanks for that, DJ. Let's cast our eyes now to the qualifying table. Greg Seitz has almost half a second in hand over David Soroa there in second. Here's Andrew Wood. He currently finds himself back in 17th place on timing sheets with a 1:32.148. His latest lap is a 1:35, so that will not be an improvement. In fact, if that was his first lap, he would have only dropped 1 spot, despite it being 3 seconds off the pace. Top 10 are covered by a second, so relatively close despite that massive margin that Seitz holds. And here's Mitchell Ian Green in third, a 1:30.825. If he can find 0.3 of a second, he'll move himself up onto the outside of the front row. It's a 1:30.7. He improved, but not by enough.
No, not at all. And here's one thing I noticed. We got a lot of hometown heroes today as Josh Chin now goes to the pole position. Wow! Where did that come from, Josh? By 4 milliseconds.
4 thousandths of a second then. 1:53 plays a 1:58 for Chin and Seitz. So now Seitz has to respond. In practice, he had about 6/10 over the field. He had 4/10 until that lap came in from Chin. So under pressure for the first time today. Here's Aaron Rouse. He was reasonably quick in practice as well. Just looking for his first lap of the session now. The Midwest driver, number 26, gonna drive it back to the left-hand side of the racetrack. That's a 1:40.0. You often see drivers either do what Ralph's did there, go back to the left, or they'll keep the car glued to the right-hand side and try to cut out the extra 1 or 2 meters you have to take to go back towards the pit wall, which of course does give you a slightly better line into the braking zone for turn 1. Michael Overbay keeps it to the right. His car's at relatively low power, so they're able to get on the brakes late enough that that line doesn't really affect them.
Yeah, and when you come into turn number 1, it really depends on how your car is set up, how it's handling, how do you want it to behave under braking, because you're really hard on the brakes into turn 1. Then you kind of come into this, first you come into this 90 left that is surprisingly fast, and then you come into this, what we would in Finland call an open hairpin right, and that's a rally pace load. So an open hairpin right, and you kind of torture your tires all the way through. And when you come from the wide line, it means that you have to kind of have your brake bias set a little bit more forward in order to, handle the slight turn under braking. And once you come in a straight line, you can maybe brake in a little bit later with a little bit more rear brake bias, and the car will still hold out under you. So it's really a matter of preference. I don't think it's there's that much of a difference, in lap time over which line you take, as we watch Nicholas Delp, and he is holding on all the way to the right. So it's more of a preference thing. Do you want to take a straighter line, or do you want to take the more of a racing line, a cleaner racing line, so to speak?
Nicholas Delp's in 6th place. He's one of 3 drivers in the 1 minute 30.8. He's got Brendan Wilson and Declan Eady breathing down his neck at the moment. Now cast our eyes back to 14th, and we find Andreas Eick looking at his time. It's a 1 minute 31.281, so half a second puts him well inside the top 10. Can the Scandinavian get there? He got a pretty decent tow off that car in front down that straight. Did it help him? No, it didn't, because that lap time is invalidated. That car in front was, in fact, David Sarraut as well, who still sits in 3rd. So Eick is in a good spot now to find an improvement, as long as Sarraut doesn't make a mistake on this lap. Here's Joshua Chin. Can he go faster even still? His last lap was a bit of a cool-down lap, and he's wound it up for another crack now. What can the Florida man do? Across the line, what does it look? It's fast, but it's not fast enough. It's 1 minute 30.6. That would have put him 4th had he not already been on that provisional pole. 3 minutes left in the session.
Yeah, and that lap time by Josh Chin, I mean, he's always been kind of a fast guy, He's never been slow, but that was really, really, really a great lap, and out of nowhere, too. I mean, he did a 130 flat in practice, but that's slower than Greg did in practice, so maybe Greg did do his 129.6 in the early portions of the practice when the track was cooler. And when I'm just looking at Josh's fast lap once again, and he really didn't have any help there either. It was just his own driving. No draft, no nothing.
Well, that was going to be my next question to ponder, whether he had some sort of help or slingshot down this straight. We're riding on board with Martin McDonald for now. Turns out, no, he's just that fast. McDonald is not on a hot lap. He's letting someone go through the bus stop. Chicane out of the final corner. The World Champions on the right bites harder if you get it. Very easy to bounce over those curbs and lose control of the car. Front end off the ground isn't going to turn, and you find yourself taking a big piece of that wall with you. Here's Greg Seitz, the Ross Racing man, out of the hairpin. That exit is so crucial, because if you get it wrong, you feel the effects all the way down this massive straight, longest flat-out portion on the racetrack. Gives you a lot of time to think about your braking point and your turning point for these final 2 corners, which can be extremely pressurizing, especially if you're on a fast lap. He gets through there pretty nicely, uses up all the track on the exit, and going to keep the car pretty straight as he comes to the line, but it's not a fast lap for him.
No, I think he was setting up his car for a fast lap this time around. When he came to the chicane, you noticed that he was braking a little bit earlier, so setting himself up for a fast one this time by, and this is really when it counts for Greg Seitz, as we're watching Mitchell Ian Green, the man from Pennsylvania. So he is on the back straight, and I wonder if he can improve on his 130.5. So he's currently sitting in P number 3, and he's the next threat for the duo of Josh Chin and Greg Seitz.
Well, that 130.5 for Mitchell Ian Green came fairly recently, because he jumped David Sarraut. It was on his previous lap he did it. Doesn't find an improvement on this lap. Meanwhile, David Soror, up the road from him, improved, went back into third, and clawed within a quarter of a second of Chinnon's sights. He shot that margin down pretty quickly as he skates through the grass there, through the first chicane, and that will be his session done with just 40 seconds left on the clock. That was Andreas Eick that flashed by him and was unaffected by Soror's adventurous line through the grass. Here's Greg Seitz. He'll have one more attempt after this because he'll cross the line before the checkered flag comes out. Is this a warm-up lap or is this a hot lap? It's looking pretty hot. Oh, it's not quite fast enough. One more attempt for him.
Yeah, that's a 130.6 for Greg Seitz. Not gonna do it at this point. Track is getting a little bit warmer all the time. We are at 8:50 a.m. virtual standard time. And since the weather is up, we might as well go through it. 18 degrees Celsius air temp, 22 degrees track temp. You can see the Fahrenheit conversion on your screen. Humidity, only 46%, so pretty dry here in Canada. And, you know, it's a great day for racing and a great weather for racing. We have a partly cloudy sky, but I'm seeing only a couple of white lamps here in the sky. Otherwise, the sun is shining and it's a great day for racing.
Andrew Wood found a spot with his last lap. Andreas Eick couldn't find any improvement. Mark Ponick brings it to pit road. That pit entry could provide some drama today. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Here's Alex Goyon, 13th. He's a hometown hero. He's from Canada. Can he put it up inside the top 10? Answer to that is a resounding no. He can't. And
No.
Greg Seitz, well, can he find last gasp improvement and get himself back on that pole? He'll be probably the last driver to set a time out of the chicane. He's at full noise, up through the gears. Look at the bottom right for the lap time. It's looking close, but it's not quite close enough. A 1 minute 30.284. He's a 10th outside of the pole time.
A for effort. So that's Austin Espedy from New England. Can he improve? Answer is he can improve just a little bit, and I think that's it. We are pretty much through our qualifying runners here. Ryan, I'm not seeing anybody on the track anymore, and that means we have a starting grid for our event.
Hopefully we don't see any auto parts strewn across the track today. Here's a starting grid. Joshua Chin starts on the pole. Greg Seitz alongside him. David Soror, Adam Mitchell, Ian Green will occupy row 2. Those two are sweeping and stopping all session long for those two spots. Daniel Zegers and Mark McDonald at row 3. Nicholas Delt and David McDonald is from 7th and 8th. Brendan Wilson and Declan Eady are your top 10.
Liam Quinn starting 11th. Nathan Lewis starting alongside him on row number 6, position number 12. Alex Guyon 13th. Daniel Carnifus 14th. Austin Espedy 15th. And it's Michael Overbay 16th. Not to be confused with Michael Bay. Andreas Eick 17th. Mark Ponick 18th. Jean-Francois Maté 19th. And Barn Daly rounding out your top 20 with 5 more drivers. Andrew Wood, J.W. Miller, Lyndon Swaby, Aaron Ruffs, and Robert Land rounding out your 25 driver field. Ryan?
I'm glad it's not Michael Bay because we'd probably have too much chaos and carnage to even get through if he was in this sort of race. So Michael Bay will start out the mid-pack. He might have to avoid his fair share of chaos and carnage. We've gone through the track temp already. 22 degrees track temp or 75 degrees Fahrenheit for you sole people in the world that decide to use that temperature measurement. I'm looking at you, America. Very scenic track is Circuit Gilles Villenueve here in Montreal, located on an island, in fact, in Canada. So it's pretty self-contained.
It is. Named for, of course, the great Ferrari hero, Gilles Villeneuve, and his exploits. And he was also the first driver to win here. I think that was back in 1978. So, you know, great driver to name the track after, and great venue for racing. And one of those tracks that suits pretty much every car on the service, whether it's a fast Formula 1 car or indeed a medium speed open wheeler, whether it's a GT car and whether it's NASCAR. They have raced here too in the Inter B series back in the day, and curiosity, iRacing scanned this track when it was NASCAR racing here, and that's why they got those high curbs, if you're wondering. So that's the reason all the open wheeler guys have to play Minesweeper.
Definitely some big minds. If you clip those curbs, drivers have to be mindful of that throughout the race. Remember, if you want to see where your favorite driver is throughout the field, no matter what we are looking at on the screen, you can head to GSRC.tv for all your live timing needs from Montreal as we roll off a very short pace lap. It's more of a pace straight because that pace car is going to get on out of the way at the end of the straight, and Joshua Chin will be in control of the field. He'll probably have to wait just a little bit till after the chicane when he gasses it up and gets going. Look at that, everyone trying to warm up their tyres as quickly as they can. And now it's all eyes to the front. Joshua Chin controls the field. He goes early, and we are underway from Montreal through the chicane. Most of the field have to go at racing speed. We get through there cleanly, and Chin leads us down into turn number 1. A big move for third place. Up the inside, Soroya locks it up. Goes straight off the racetrack. He's going to have to rejoin on the exit of turn 2. Watch out there as he squeezes back onto the racetrack. That leaves Mark McDonald going from 6th to 3rd. Mitchell Ian Green into 4th. And Daniel Zegers is off the track and is in the fence from 5th place.
Yeah, I was just about to say a pretty clean start until that happened, but that's a single car incident, fortunately. So just him and his ego and his car a little bit hurt. Daniel Zegers out from 5th. Otherwise, we're clean racing through halfway of lap number 1.
Pretty much the same thing as David Soroya did down at turn number 1. Bad news for him, though, is there was no runoff to play with like Soroya had in his mistake. Top 2 have broken away. That's the gap. Back to 3rd on back because of the mishaps that have happened behind that gap has formed. And Chin and Sykes have a little opportunity here to work together and maybe continue to extend that margin if they don't fight.
Yeah, and behind them you got Mark McDonald, you got Mitchell Green, and you got David McDonald as well as Declan Eady and other guys, you know, trying to fight it out for P number 3 and trying to find out. Oh, and we got to move for the lead. Greg Sides on the inside. Oh, he tapped Chin around. Yeah.
Chin goes for a spin. Sights goes to the lead. But controversy clouds that maneuver. We'll need another angle of that. Need a few replays after lap number 1. So that means Sights does lead the first lap. McDonald gains 4 spots on lap 1 to sit 2nd. Mitchell Ian Green, David McDonald, Declan Eady has gained 5 spots. He sits in 5th, and he's just ahead of his teammate Brendan Wilson, the RSR Esports drivers.
Yeah, indeed. So that leaves Greg Sides to lead the field, and all of those other guys doing catch-up behind him pretty much. Mark McDonald trying to do just that. Mitchell Ian Green trying to follow him through. David McDonald as well as Declan Eady. So P number 2 looks very interesting right now. Mitchell Ian Green looking to the outside here on this little bit of a straight, and Ken nothing doing there, just leaving Mark McDonald to do it all by himself. So if these guys can draft each other and work together, they can maybe find a little bit of a benefit to that back straight, but really it's not a drafting track very much, not like Indy we saw last week. And and here's a crossover move from Mitchell as Mark McDonald locks up his brakes a little bit, but nothing doing there, I don't think. However, he is very close, Ryan, so I don't know.
Let's see if Green goes for a similar move that Sights pulled, and McDonald's going to make sure it doesn't happen as he pulls it over and defends the inside line. Actually rolls off and lets Ian go on the racing line. So Green up into 2nd, and Mark McDonald says, I don't have the pace right now, and slots into 3rd, as David McDonald is coming all sorts of pressure from Declan Eady. Does he pull the tire to the inside of turn 1? No, he doesn't. Just sits in and bides his time as Greg Sights has 1 minute 31.778 to do the fastest lap of the race out front. That gap is now out to the better part of 2 seconds. So already looking pretty comfortable. That's the car who's found the tyre bundle on the exit of turn 2. Gets it going. Doesn't look like there's much damage to the car. Let's take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, Nathan Lewis, he's raced getting from bad to worse here. coming in turn number 1, he's on the inside, gonna brake a little bit late here, I think, and gonna almost get position through 10 on the next corner. It just doesn't turn, so that's the danger, and goes straight on, lock up brakes, and hits nose first into the wall. Not a hard lick, but you don't want to really do that in an open wheeler. You got no bumpers to play with, you just got wings.
As soon as you touch that grass, you're along for the ride. Speaking of which, David McDonald's gone for a ride into the hairpin. There was contact from the car behind, if I'm not mistaken. He gets it going and rejoins behind Andrew Wood, so he's now in, what's that, 18th place.
Yeah,
replay.
Yeah, you're gonna see it here. So coming onto the hairpin here, there, and the casino hairpin, Declan Eady is gonna be behind David McDonald here, and you know, he's just gonna brake a little bit later, slight tap, and David spins around, and well, you know, Declan was immediately apologizing over the driver radio, and he's alongside Brandon Wilson right now, actually in turn number 1. So they're fighting over what is the 4th place right now, and that's gonna be Brandon Wilson getting ahead of his teammate. But I wonder if Declan Eady has the danger of a drive-through looming over his head after punting one of the McDonald's around.
Yeah, Wilson was able to get by at the hairpin on the inside line. Eady had to go the long way round after that contact with that car in front, so he was trying to get back by but couldn't quite find the way. So the RSI Esports drivers switch around as there's some side-by-side action behind. In fact, that's Joshua Chin working his way back up into 6th place. Just got by Nicholas Delp.
And Delp was very slow indeed on that bit of straight, the back straight. I was wondering if he was cutting too much, but I didn't see it. I think he was just pretty much letting Josh Chin, you know, get through and get into those guys ahead of him, and that's a great tactic from Nicholas Delp. I think Delp was thinking, I maybe don't have the speed right now, you know, I don't feel confident in the car, and as such, you know, Josh Chin charged those guys ahead of him. As we have a replay here, what do we have here? Going on to the back straight. Oh, Josh Chin, yeah, and so he's gonna make a move onto the last chicane, I do believe. Yeah, and that's the incident earlier on. So, you know, a bit of a netcode there. There was about half a meter between those cars. Well, not quite, but a couple of tens of centimeters at least. And here we see it on board Greg's side as well. It's gonna look to the inside, brake a little bit later, get alongside, and it looked really nasty. But it was a bit of netcode. You can see it here. Yeah. So, you know, that's the kind of corner where you can't really fit 2 cars alongside really well. You have to have 2 skilled drivers to do that. And I'm still gonna put that little bit on Greg, because ultimately, Ryan, if you're that far back, there's not really a point trying it on the last chicane, not unlike something like lap number 2.
Been plenty of drama early on in this one, and it's leaving a field that is quickly depleting as Declan Eady has got back by Brendan Wilson, and he's going to want to skip away. I hope Wilson plays a bit of a rear gunner role, because Joshua Chin is on a charge. He's probably a little bit hot under the collar after that mistake from Greg Seitz cost him the lead of the race, and now he's looking to the inside, but Wilson's going to cover him. And they go side by side, and that's tight through the chicane. They get through there just about. They drop bucket loads of time, but Wilson extremely aggressive, and that was a very late maneuver to cover off that spot.
Yeah, see, you know, normally you would think that, okay, Wilson's going maybe for an overtake from the draft, but he was actually lifting and moving, and that's dangerous. That's just, you know, Terry's covering off position, Terry's playing rear gunner. You can do that very efficiently here without resorting to that kind of maneuvers. That's just a downright block. That's Max Verstappen on Kimi Räikkönen at Spa 2016 levels of blocking. And I don't want to see that again, because that's very, very dangerous. If it hadn't been for Josh's reflexes, his car would have been airborne, guaranteed.
This time he moves it over a lot earlier, and Joshua Chin takes to the grass. He's not taking no for an answer. He slices on by Wilson, who's got to be wondering how on earth Chin found the room to make that one stick. but he's got the momentum once again. He's going to wait, bide his time, look to the racing line, and look to get a good exit, get the traction down. He might be able to get back by down this straight. Pretty good from Chin to get the momentum up on the very shallow entry he had to the hairpin, trying to fend off the inside line from Wilson's advances. Nonetheless, he's going to come under pressure because he's punching a hole in the air for that RSR Esports car. Moves it over. Wilson's looking. He can't find. His Chin actually grabbed the grass there. Was very lucky to escape that.
Yeah, indeed. You don't usually clip the grass there and write home about it. You usually get a fast route to the pit straight, which is the entry right after the chicane when you miss it. But yeah, Josh Chin, a great shot from him, a brave move. Moving 2 wheels to the grass, and he was certainly gonna be willing to put his elbows out on Brandon Wilson and say, look buddy, you know, I'm not taking a no, that was a block, you know it, and I'm gonna get through you, even if it needs me to be a little bit more liberal with the track limit. So great job by Josh, and he is up to top 5 now. He's got Dick Needy coming up next, and then Mark McDonald. His gap to the leader, Greg Seitz, right now, that is 7.2 seconds.
DJ Clark, our in-race pit reporter. There's plenty of little scraps going on out there. A lot of drivers being held up. How viable is that undercut strategy going to be today?
It's going to be hard to tell at first. Looking at the way these guys are running, there's a lot of low downforce setup, so we could be seeing a amount of tire scrub, and we could see the tires actually coming into play. But the undercut itself, it's going to be dependent on that tire wear. We will just have to wait and see. We're still about, I would say, 8 or 9 laps from pit stops happening, but we'll see what they do.
All right, we'll keep our eyes peeled then on the entry to pit road, which, let's talk about that here, Oshi. It's a pretty awkward thing, because if you're the car behind, you can keep your foot flat to the floor till you're past the entry to the chicane. The bad news there is the car in front of you's got a brake.
And they're gonna brake on the left side. So you got 2 options. Either you take it on the chin, like Josh did on lap number 2. I had to go there, sorry. And or you do a really cheeky move, which I see sometimes, which is passing a car on the inside and, you know, just going basically flat out as the other guy's braking and going just under his nose, or their nose indeed, to the pit lane. So, you know, there's 2 maneuvers, and I would advocate the first option, because the gains from going for the second option are not worth the risks, especially if you miscalculate it and go full YOLO onto somebody's side.
$33 minutes left in this one, so we're 12 minutes into this race, about a quarter of the way through. And Greg Seitz holds a 3.2 second margin over Mitchell Ian Green in second, so Seitz is looking comfortable. Green is looking comfy in second. Mark McDonald is in third. He's 5 seconds off the lead of the race, and he's got 1.5 seconds in hand over the scrap behind him, which is Declanidi and Joshua Chin, who's starting to close up to him. And I wonder if Edie will be as aggressive in his defense as his teammate was just a lap or so ago.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Wilson was being, you know, a little bit too aggressive as Seitz goes fastest. We have side-by-side between Alex Guillon. We have 3 wide in the main straight, actually P number 12, Alex Guillon, and we got as well a couple of other guys involved with that one, Barn Daly and David McDonald. McDonald gonna come through to the inside, past both of them, but Daly breaks later, and Daly goes through into turn number 2, so it looked advantage McDonald for a moment, but Daly pulls out a rabbit out of his hat at the last second and gets that move done. So Guillon losing 2 positions there on the main straight, heading towards turn number 1, and now David McDonald gonna claw his way back towards the front of the field after being in top 5 solidly, and then losing positions after that little bit of an incident. And here we have a replay, and Ryan, 3 wide on the main straight of Montreal. Don't see that too often.
Always hold my breath. It's a reasonably wide straight, but very easy to get it wrong as you then gently ease to the right to the kink and then into the braking zone for the left-hander. They sorted themselves out very nicely indeed. A lot of switchbacks happening in that exchange, and here is that quartet now into the hairpin. That looked like a lock at the rear end from the leading car. Actually helped him get it hooked through the corner, but I don't think that was exactly as comfortable as he made it out to be. Let's go to P4 though, because Joshua Chin has gotten on by Declan Eady, and that was a very quick move.
Yeah, and Declan Eady was pretty much leaving him the space into the last chicane. He was seeing, you know, Josh Chin coming at the speed of 1,000 suns, with the heat of 1,000 suns into the last chicane, and here you're gonna see it. Josh Chin gonna move to the inside with the King of Chin's helmet he has. Great streamer also, Josh Chin providing content, and he's gonna go through the inside and get by, and Declan Eady is gonna say like, oh, yep, you're coming, and there's very little I can do about that. So Chin in P number 4, gonna next see if he can hunt down Mark McDonald.
Wow.
Precision.
Yeah, wow. Okay, I can't say that word apparently.
Hey, you're learning from me.
Yeah. Precision move from the Precision Sim Engineering car. And
at the
now
Precision Racing League.
he has his sights set on Mark McDonald, and I dare say this may be a relatively easy move as well. The bad news is he is 6.2 seconds away from the race leader, which means he'll have to put in some blistering lap times to get close to sights. He's lapping about the same pace, but well, that's not going to be fast enough, unfortunately. So he is still probably going to be a little bit short on the end of where he could have been, but a good recovery it will be if he can get by McDonald here, back onto the podium, and then the next 3 seconds up the road to green in second.
And speaking of, since we are in Canada, we have to talk about Canadian drivers also, because it is their home circuit and they are out at full force, just as we've been seeing at Mosport, in some other, in the GT4 series and the GTE series as well. And we still got 4 Canadian drivers, hometown heroes, running here at Montreal, with 3 of them already out of this race. And out of those guys, Declan Eady is the highest runner. He's at top 5. And then we got David Theroux at 7th place, Jean-Francois Maté 18th, and Alex Guillon 14th. So those are your hometown guys for today's event.
Here comes Chin. Eady's got a good view of this. Front row seat to the scrap, as this is the battle for the final podium spot. McDonald going to edge that car over, but Chin says, I have the speed, and I am going to take this spot away as he gets caught on the outside for the hairpin. He should get a good exit, but for now, McDonald fends him off. He'll have to drive this car down the inside of the racetrack if he wants any chance of defending into this final chicane. That's exactly what he's going to do, but not enough as Chin again, 2 tires in the grass, makes the pass on the inside, into the braking zone, big contact, and a big crash for Mark McDonald as he goes firing off into the pit entrance road. And then maybe damage to Joshua Chin's car as well. They were squeezing together, and they squeezed and squeezed, and they squeezed too much in the end.
Yeah, and you can see Josh Chin going to the inside here very aggressively. He's gonna take 2 tires to the grass once again. Entitled to do that here, yep. Mostly within the white lines. And then gonna come into the corner, Mark McDonald, Josh Chin, and just coming a little bit too far together. And Josh Chin, he just moved over to the left far too much and gonna send Mark McDonald into the fence. The lucky thing about that is the pit lane entrance on Montreal is placed so that Mark McDonald can actually straight up just pit and you know, take some fuel and take some repairs. And gonna move over to DJ Clark actually, who is our pit reporter. DJ, is Mark McDonald within the pit window?
Yeah, he can make it work to try to do it. It's going to be, he's going to have to save fuel on the back end here. He's still sitting in the pits. Nope, he was out and back in the car. So it is to be determined how much damage he took, but he can make it work on one stop here.
Thank you, DJ. And Ryan, well, we got a battle for P number 5.
We do. By the way, Joshua Chin's escaped, and he's got pace in third. No damage to his car that we can see. So very lucky man at the moment. He has had a rough race so far. There's a look from David Theroux. Ended up getting into the back end of Brendan Wilson there. He couldn't make the pass in the grass like Chin
Wilson.
could as... Wow, Wilson across the curb. Theroux squeezes by him between that car and the fence. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how not to take the final chicane at Montreal.
No, he screwed up
He's
the last...
beached it too.
Yeah.
He's beached it on the curb.
So, screwed up the last chicane and didn't even go to the wall of champions. Brandon Wilson here defended the inside, as he's entitled to do. Much cleaner of the defense this time around. Gonna brake a little bit too late here. Lose the back end here. Gonna go over the curve and gonna spin around. And Seru, I want his on board after this one because that was really close. And here we are going to that on board view right now. And Ryan, well, this is gonna be one of those rear end clenching moments for our driver here, David Seru.
This was one in itself as he almost gave him a touch. In fact, I reckon he did. Wilson just lost the rear. He tipped it in with too much speed. That's what threw him over the curb there in the end. Did a good job to wrestle it away from the wall. Unfortunately, those rear tyres ended up in the air as the car rolled backwards onto the turtle curb on the inside of that final corner. He was not able to get it going as a result, and he's had to take a tow back to pit lane. So that elevates Soror up into P5. 4 seconds away from Declan Eady. Wilson had really fallen away from Eady in recent laps.
Yeah, indeed, and you know, top 5 right now, looking pretty solid here. Josh Chin continues his charge. He's 1/10 slower than Greg Sides last time by, but he's catching up to Mitchell Green, so he's gonna be potentially at least second in this event, and they got Mark McDonald actually ahead of him right now, who has returned to the track. So Mark McDonald not in a point scoring position, or at least not in a top 3 position. 1 lap back here, gonna let Josh Chin through nice and easy, no hard feelings from the earlier incident here. But yeah, McDonald, great to see him back, and great display of his character as well. You know, coming back to the track despite losing the podium position, potential podium position, and just gonna, you know, finish the race. And that's what every racer ultimately wants to do.
This is a battle here between Soror and Quinn. After that little scare, he's come into the clutches now of Liam Quinn, who's in pretty much the optimal window behind him to get a handy slipstream and subsequent slingshot down into the chicane. Didn't quite get the hairpin right, and that's cost him a crucial car length or 2 as we ride on board. Cast your eyes to the bottom of the screen for the speed comparison. He's going almost 7 miles per hour quicker as he reaches the braking point, but it's not close enough. That little mistake in the hairpin did cost him in the end, as they'll come across and complete lap number 14. We're halfway through this race, and we are now getting ever closer to that pit window, as again, Quinn throws it wide at turn number 1, as Kite in the background into pit lane. This is Daniel Cranfus.
Yeah, so he's opening up the game of pit stops out of those who are, you know, not forced to make their stops a little bit earlier. Interesting strategy there, and we talked earlier about undercuts and overcuts here with our pit reporter DJ Clark. DJ, Daniel, the first one to open the game. Do you see that as a potentially opportunistic move, or did he just want to get it out of the way?
He looked like he was running a little bit of traffic, so he may just wanted to get some clean air on those wings. We'll have to see how it plays. It is going to be a little bit early, but he shouldn't have to worry about too much fuel conservation for the second half of this race, so he should be good to go.
Ooh. There's a slow-moving car. Espedy gets swamped by 3 coming out of the second chicane. What happened to the number 7 there? Let's take a look at our replay and see if we can find out. Running in 10th place now. He was running up inside the top 10. Look behind. He's got a train of cars following. Did they make contact? Doesn't look like it. Oh, he's just over-rotated on the exit and had to really slow it up to avoid the fence. Gave it a little kiss on the right side. The car will be okay with that, though. Does drop a bunch of time as more takers to the lane. That's Joshua Chin. Looks like Espedy comes as well. And David Soror also coming into the lane up on the jacks.
Yeah, and meanwhile, David McDonald and Nicholas Delp are very close together for 6th place. Just gonna throw a heads up there as we watch Chin's pit stop, see where he comes back to the track. Now, this could be disaster or this could be good for Josh Chin, depending on how clear the air is ahead of him. And the answer is, it's very clear.
So he'll lap by himself for a lap or two until those around a pit. Mitchell in green, by the way, has shut down the margin to 5 seconds. It was up and over 5 seconds between the top two, so Sights probably just flicking it into cruise control right about now. Last lap, green was 0.2 quicker. Nothing to be concerned about just yet for Greg Sights out front. He is still comfortably in control of this race. That P6 battle is pretty tight, though. In the background, coming out of the hairpin, Nicholas Delp with David McDonald and Byron Daly all over his rear end.
Yeah, and those guys potentially gonna take it to the pit lane soon. Byron Daly is in a position where he could do that, as we talked about the importance of battles earlier on. Oh, it's gonna be David McDonald instead going to the lane.
And this should give him that undercut strategy, right, DJ? Explain that undercut to us.
So the undercut is basically you're going to come in, get yourself some clean air and some new tires. You're going to be able to come in and run faster post your pit stop as several other guys, Matei and Miller, come in behind him. The prime example of this is if you're looking at Josh Chin right now, he has gained about 1.5 seconds on Greg Sights since coming in. He is about 30 seconds back of Sights as we speak. He might just be able to make this overcut work and maybe even jump him into the lead.
Well, depends how much longer Sights stays out then, as McDonald rejoins in quite the battle. He's now right ahead of Soror, who pitted the lap before, remember. And Cranefoos has actually jumped both of them. So Cranefoos with a really good strategy to pit earlier than everyone else. Watch out for him then through this final stint. Will he fall away, or will he maintain it as Soror gets a brilliant exit out of the second chicane? This is in fact the third chicane they're coming up to. I called it the second one earlier, but it's the third. And on the inside on the brakes, Soror gets that one done. That's a good move. Claws his way up by McDonald, who's just bringing the car back up to temperature now.
Yeah, and great move, and McDonald gonna come further back. And we have Chronifus going very wide, Cyril, and McDonald behind them as well. So good job from those guys keeping it all together. And yeah, we mentioned earlier on, and that's Greg Sights. He's coming back on the track, and he's got his sights set on the lead, and we have a couple of other guys on the pit lane as well, DJ.
Yeah, we've got the majority of the top field on there, and it wouldn't be my first broadcast if I didn't make a mistake. Chin comes out 6.9 behind Sights, so my apologies on that. But it definitely did help him close that gap a little bit as Green comes out 3.8 behind. Everybody else has made their stop with the exception of Aaron Rufus, who comes in right now.
Well, you're doing a great job so far for your first broadcast, DJ, and you were right. He had the potential to claw in even closer with these open wheel cars, but so far it looks like we still got Greg in the race lead. We got Mitchell and Green second place, and Josh Chin P number 3. So Ryan status quo as is so far, but I'm looking at Mitchell and I'm seeing him make a couple of mistakes, and that potentially is gonna still put his second place in jeopardy here.
How about this for 6, just behind Nicholas Delp. David Soror is going to go by Crenfus. This is an almighty scrap. They've all really closed up and condensed through the pit stop cycle to make it a 5-way scrap for just outside the top 5, as there's another move in the background. That's McDonald up the inside of Daly, onto the brakes, the biggest stop almost off the track, and he executes that one perfectly. Espedy just off the back of these guys as well. There in 11th, so this is pretty much 6th through 11th, all in a train.
Yeah, that was a very good execution into the last hairpin. I think the French peasants will be jealous, but nothing more about that one. Chronifus ahead of them is in a little bit of trouble, maybe, because he's taking clean line through the last gain. Watching him earlier on, he was going a little bit wide on some of those corners, so potentially struggling at the later portion of this race. Delp lead in the back, Cyril second, then Chronifus, McDonald, and Byron Daly, as well as Austin SPT. So all of those guys involved in that scrap, and well, great battles in Montreal. They are always bound here. We always see cars bunching up together, some taking less risks and some taking more risks here. with 16 minutes to go. 6th place is at stake, so it's not some 15th place. No offense to someone in the 15th place, no offense to Wood there, but it's not some lower position. It's a 6th place, and those are prime positions in terms of the championship.
Well, if Delp's car is geared towards the top end speed, it could be quite difficult for anyone to get by him. Could be part of the reason why we're seeing this battle close up, because if he's fast on the straights, that's where 90% of the overtakes are coming here today. So really puts the pressure on the chasing cars to be fast through the corners and brave on the brakes as we look backwards and take a close eye here as to how much the gap closes down between Soror and... So this is McDonald and Cranefus. Cranefus, his car looks pretty good at the end of the straights. Didn't lose that much at all. He was getting a slip himself though, and he slips out of that final corner.
Yeah, and Cranefus behind him making a mistake at the last chicane and gonna have to let David McDonald through there. So McDonald elevating himself to 8th and Cranefus dropping to 9th, and Daly gonna follow him further back as well. But that's gonna allow Delp and Saru to settle it between the two Canadian drivers, and of course settle the 2nd place among the Maple Leafs here, even though we are in town of the Hats. Of course, Montreal Canadiens is the hometown team here. Hopefully NHL hockey returning soon. That's the 2nd time I thought about it on GSRC broadcast this week, but I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, Delp and Saru, which one of these is your favorite, Ryan?
I am not going to answer that question because I'm a firm believer in the commentator's curse. So,
oh yes,
I'm going to leave that one hanging in the air as Soroya edges closer and closer, but he doesn't get there. To Nicholas Delp, really following him through that hairpin and was keeping the momentum up very well. Down this straight, he's about 3 car lengths behind him. Little shut right down. Don't think he's close enough on this lap to make the move, although he might make me eat my words, because here he comes, charging to the inside. Delp tried to cover, he couldn't do it, and Soror on the brakes is going to take away P6 with a great move down the back straight in towards the final chicane. And now David McDonald is looking to make it go from bad to worse for Delp, because he's closing in as well. He has to look to the outside. If he can keep the car there, he's got the inside run for turn 2, and that's exactly what he gets. The exit, he makes that one stick, and Delp going to lose 2 spots in about 3 corners.
Yeah, so we saw one textbook example of how to pass into the last chicane, and that's David Saru providing it for us. And then David McDonald gonna be a little bit opportunistic, gonna use that battle to his advantage and make a move down into turn number 2. And he was slipping a lot on the exit. You saw him correcting not once, not twice, but actually 3 times. And just putting the power down and making good use of the new Indy Pro 2000 PM18. Of course, the differences to the old Pro Mazda / Star Mazda that was serving this service very well for a decade, really, is that this car has a differential, a locking differential. So, you can put your power down a little bit easier, as we see Delp making a bit of a mistake and Cranefus getting through on the final hairpin.
Delp's been kicked out of his rhythm now. He's lost 3 spots in the space of a lap, and he's looking to turn his fortunes around as he draws alongside Cranefus down the straight, but wrong side of the track to make this one stick. Has to lift off, has to be careful, because Espany's right there. In fact, Espany had to check up to avoid getting into the back of him, and that is going to allow Byron Daly to pick up a spot. He had lost this one, and they almost come together as they come through the kink. They keep it clean, and Daly gets himself back inside the top 10 after dropping out of it for a moment. Just under 12 minutes left in this race, so just about 8 or 9 laps to go.
Indeed, and no need to go through it because we got such a great battle here between these guys, but I'm just gonna mention it out of your pictures. Mitchell Ian Green and Josh Jean getting closer and closer on the 2nd place, just over 1 second between them. And last time by their lap times, Mitchell did a 1:31.1 and Josh Jean a 1:30.6. And if you would like to follow their lap times more and focus on that battle, of the timing, then head over to GSRC.tv, and there you will find a live timing and scoring for your enjoyment.
It's a shame, actually, looking at the lap times, because Joshua Chin is absolutely storming at the moment. He is consistently blitzing sites when it comes to the lap times, but he is 6 seconds back. He won't get there unless Sites makes some sort of mistake, and I've got to say, Green is doing a good job as this run continues to keep the margin at around that 4.7 second area after it opened pretty quickly and ballooned earlier on in the race. Starting to separate into a couple different battles now. This one for P6. Sarua and McDonald have broken away, and then Cranefoos has got Delp, Daly, and Espedy stacked up behind him, and that means that this is a battle for P8. Cranefoos is currently occupying 2 seconds away from McDonald up the road, on board with Daly, the Carolina driver. For the flat-out right-hander. Some cars you've got a lift, but in these cars it is almost a non-corner. Yes, there's a lot of steering input to go through, but you never even think about having to lift through there until you reach the braking zone. Down into another one of the short straights. There's a lot of these straights around this sort of length where they're not quite long enough for the slip to take effect. And then out of the third chicane, I should say, and then into the hairpin, this corner, probably the most crucial on the track.
Yeah, it's a hairpin. I mean, it's a nondescript hairpin, but it's so crucial because that is where you get the exit to the long back straight. And in that back straight, if you mess up the hairpin, then you're gonna be just sitting duck, and there's very little you can do beyond just sitting there and watching as cars zoom by. Cranefoos, Delp, and Daly, all of those guys involved in that battle. SPD potentially as well. Doesn't have the pace to join it quite yet. Oh, and Cranefoos makes a mistake on the final 10 and gonna look to the inside, just getting a little bit loose. Delp gonna getting closer, heading towards turn number 1. Nothing doing turn, not quite close enough, but Cranefoos gonna go wide once again, braking as late as he can, and that's probably not the right plan right now.
That's not the first time Cranefoos has lit the rears up coming out of that corner. Does seem to be struggling with the traction, certainly out of the final chicane. Wow, I've just looked at the gap between the top three. Mitchell Ian Green's taken about 7/10 of a second out of it, and Chin has taken 1.5 seconds. If he can get by Green quick enough, I do wonder, maybe he can get towards Sights and start to challenge. Here is the battle for P2 then. There's 0.4 of a second between these two drivers. The key here is they can't afford to battle each other.
No, not at all. I think Mitchell knows the situation, but I wonder, they are teammates with Greg Sights, so, it could be a situation of, well, I'm gonna protect my teammate a little bit and make sure Josh Chin cannot get any closer, and that's one part of the game. You have to also play the team game properly. And, Josh Chin here on the third place right now, gonna look for the second, gonna get past Mitchell and Green as soon as possible in his dreams, but the reality might be more difficult than that. 1:30.4 once again last time by Mitchell Green, 1:30.9, Greg Sights 1:31.1. So hand over
Chin has gained 2 seconds in the last 3 laps relative to the race leader. He's not going to gain much on this lap while he's tucked up under the rear wing of Green, which is why it's so crucial to get by him. He was a second quicker 2 laps ago. Sights lost a little bit on his own lap time. Recovered last lap, but still has got to be feeling the pressure just a bit now. Oh, that's in the fence. Mitchell Ian Green gives it a big whack with the right side. That sent some big energy through the car, actually picked the car up off the ground. And that's going to give all the incentive that Chin needs to dive up the inside and make that move stick. Great exit as well. So he should be comfortable now, and he's up into second. He's 4.4 seconds away from Greg Sights. How many laps are there left in this race? Looking around the 4-lap distance to go. He can gain a second a lap. He might be able to get there. No! Come on!
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, Mitchell. That's just on you. I mean, I understand braking too late. Maybe his car was screwed up. I'm not gonna throw him under the strangest yet. Maybe he had more damage than he thought from that wall hit earlier on. That's the first proper hard braking zone after that. But yeah, he's gonna be here on the draft, and it's gonna be pretty self-explanatory. I mean, he's gonna break himself way too late behind these trees, and then on the last chicane, just gonna hit the back of Josh Chin, and that's all she wrote. And that's just tragic. That's just, not what we wanna see. Fortunately, Josh Chin able to keep going and still in the second place, but that's pretty much thrown our hopes of a lead battle down the drain.
Yeah, that's just... Looks like the front left's broken on that car before he hits the braking point, so maybe just no braking force going through the car as expected. And Chin, for the second time today, finds himself on the wrong end of the stick, down at the chicane, and the gap is out to 11.5 seconds now between sights. And Joshua in second. Edie in third. Makes up the podium at the moment. 15 seconds adrift. And there is Green coming out of pit road. He sees his podium hopes dashed. He's way back in 15th spot. About 3/4 of a lap away from the race lead.
Yeah, and DJ, you got an update on an earlier situation we saw. Daniel Cranfis.
Yeah, back about 2-3 laps ago, Daniel Cranfis, who was running in a really solid top 10 position, spun coming out of the hairpin back on lap 24. Just got a little too much power into the rear tires, went right around. He has gained back 2 spots as he currently gets around Austin Espetsy coming down the back straight. But really sad for what could have been a great race for our earliest pit stop.
Thank you, DJ. And indeed, he does get by Austin. And gonna set his sights on Nick Delp and Baron Daly next in this everlasting battle, Ryan. It looks like it's never over.
Never over till the checkered flag flies in motorsport, in sim racing as well. And Delp will certainly have a lot to be positive about if he walks away from this one in 7th place, because he's defended very well so far. David Soror is enough to get his defensive chops out, because here comes David McDonald all over him and looking to get himself up into the top 5.
Yeah, so David's gonna claw his way back. Not a great race for the McDonald guys who were early on in top 5 looking for a great position. Well, David's gonna be the winning one today, we think, with Mark still 2 laps down in 19th place. But David, he is challenging another David, in fact, here. So the battle of the David. I wonder which one is gonna end up the Coulthard here.
You can see up the road there's a 2-car battle as well. That's Liam Quinn just getting by Michael Overbay. So Overbay will be right in front of these guys in a moment as well, which could play a part in this one, as McDonald shows the nose, trying to play the mental game there and get into the mind of Soror, make him double check his braking point, maybe miss it. He didn't. He got through that nicely, but McDonald is looking pretty dangerous right now.
Yeah, he's dangerous, so dangerous behind him, and gonna fill Soror's mirrors with that orange nose of the Rust Racing car. So David's gonna look for his opportunity in these last dying laps of this event. Now it's very interesting to see whether he sticks it to the back straight and gonna try to move on the obvious position, or whether he tries to look for a chance somewhere else. And personally, I think at this point you're just looking for any chance you get. But most importantly, McDonald is being very patient here. He's being very patient not in a sense that he's sick and in a hospital, but in a sense that he's looking for his chances, calming down, judging the opportunities. It's almost as if he's calculating percentages and taking the highest percentage, and he's not seeing anything where his chance of passing him is above his threshold.
Going to be 2 laps to go when they come across the line. Soror gets a good substream benefit from Overbay as they go by him on the straight. That keeps him safe into the braking zone once again. He's slow through the mid-quarter, but his exits are very clean. And that's giving him a big benefit at the moment, as Cranfus and Espedy are still battling. Cranfus has been unable to keep that spot. Through the chicane, he's managed to get alongside him in front of them. That looked like Daly getting by Delp, and it was, and Cranefuss will follow that maneuver on Espedy right there.
Yeah, so great battles here all over the track. We got 3 battles, 3 tandems fighting it out for those positions. We got P5, 6, then we got P7, 8, and P9 and 10 as well at these dying moments of his event. So, well, take your picks, everybody. Take your picks at home. We're going to be following these all the way to the end with 50 seconds left on the clock. And I think it's the penultimate lap as well. So we got 1 more left in this race, I shall be hoping. Greg Seitz in the race lead. And he is going to be pretty sure the winner here at Montreal. Just a great event for him and a great race, Ryan, all round.
Not the fastest car, though. Must be said. He's kept his nose clean for the most part. That's what's going to get him that race victory. But even now, looking at his lap times, Joshua Chin, despite being turned around twice, is the fastest car on the racetrack. And he's actually shut it down to 10.5 seconds now, after pretty sure being around 15 seconds back at one point after that second spin. There he is, a 1 minute 30.5 on the last lap. For reference, Seitz' fastest lap of the race is a 1 minute 30.5.
Yeah,
P5.
Oh, McDonald gonna look to the inside, and he has the advantage heading to the first chicane, and a great move there for David McDonald. Is he gonna be able to hold it? Yes, he is, true. And Siru, now he is the one doing the attacking after doing the defending for the last 5 laps or so. Very close.
Siru had a great run there, but just wasn't able to go anywhere with it. You almost did go into the back of McDonald, though. You just had to check up, and that's cost him about a car length, but now he's got a good exit again. That traction really working well from off the exits of the corners as he forces his way to the inside, forces that door ajar. He's unable to make it stick, but Wash for a big move down into the chicane on the final lap, but all the way out front. Greg Seitz is going to dominate today's race, and Greg Seitz is going to pick up the checkered flag and extend his championship margin with a stunning victory in Montreal. It's McDonald, though.
And Greg Seitz, great race for him, and David Siru gonna look to the outside, McDonald on the inside, on the last chicane. Oh, Siru is ahead, McDonald gonna break later, however, on the inside, nothing doing there for Siru. Is he gonna get a better exit? Are we gonna have a drag race? GSRC, they're all about the big finish here. That's what we do, and Siru gonna get alongside, but not wide. Able to make it through. A great finish between those guys, and gonna be Warren Daly finishing 7th, Delp finishing 8th, and Jon finishing 10th actually. So we got all those guys finishing, you know, in a nice order. And
Cranefuss has had an issue here on the final lap. He's actually ended up in pit lane, and Espedy's missing his front wing. So if we put 2 and 2 together, we get 7. No, I'm kidding. We get probably contact between Espedy and Cranefuss. Whoa, hello. That's a complete loss of rear end grip. That wasn't Cranefuss though. There's Cranefuss. It was down at turn 2.
Yeah, down at turn 2, and gonna just spin it to the wall.
Oh, actually, Espedy's front wings come off through the final chicane. Saw it in the back of the shot there. It was departing the car. Cranefuss loses the rear end there and ends up on the racing line, sends cars scattering. And then down at the first chicane, he ended up off the racetrack. Big loss of rear end grip for him then, through turn 1 and into turn 3. I wonder if the departing rear wing for Espedy was due to contact with the rear end of Cranefuss that has damaged that car to the point where its rear end no longer wants to cooperate with the front. Let's throw to a break here on GSRC. When we come back, stay with us. It's time for the results and interviews from Montreal on the PRL Indy Pro 2000. Welcome back to GSRC, where you can get your name on our broadcast and be part of over our 1 million impressions each and every month. Just head to the link in the description to see how you can get involved with our broadcasts. Now, let's take a look at our results then. Greg Seitz wins by 10 seconds in a gap that seesawed like no tomorrow over the course of the race. Joshua Chin comes home in second after very much being a part of that seesaw. Declan Eady home in third. Liam Quinn and David McDonald made up your top 5. David Soror had a fighting race to come home in 6 ahead of Byron Daly. Nicholas Delp, Alex Goyon, and Andreas Ike your top 10.
Austin Espedy gonna finish 11th, and Andrew Wood gonna come home in 12th place. Jean-Francois Matet 13th. Mitchell Ian Green 14th after that incident with Josh Chin on the dying laps. And JW Miller, the last driver on the lead lap, gonna finish 15th. Then we got the guys lap down. Daniel Krenfus, Aaron Ruffs, Michael Overbay, and Mark McDonald, who is 2 laps down. And then your list of retired drivers. Montreal picking its casualties as usual. Brandon Wilson, Nathan Lewis, Lyndon Sweby, Daniel Ziggers, Mark Koenig, and Robert Land, who didn't even start the race. So a couple of drivers out on the first laps. But otherwise, a perhaps surprisingly short casualty list, Ryan, for our race at Montreal. And you're going to talk to one of the drivers who had a great race, but had potential to have an even better race.
Yeah, Joshua Chin coming home in second in the end, which I suppose is probably the best you could have done with circumstances handed to you today.
Yeah, for getting hit 3 times by one team in one corner, I'd say second was pretty good. Definitely was a threat, and I think the rest of the season will have that same pace.
Yeah, it looked like you probably had the fastest car out there today. Every time you got yourself into clean air, you were absolutely rocketing and shutting that gap down to the leader, no matter where you were in the field. Obviously, the first piece of contact with Seitz early on looks relatively sort of a racing sort of deal. The contact later on, which we saw with McDonald, was it, at the end of the back straight, that was rather unfortunate. Just got cleaned up from the rear end. What was your take on that?
Yeah, Mitchell says that he was pitting, but
Mitchell, sorry, yeah.
I don't understand why he'd be pitting there. I know he's going to say it wasn't intentional, but no matter how you look at it, the optics are bad, and there's no excuse for it.
Obviously, disappointed with how things did play out, but you've got to walk away from here looking at the positives, otherwise you'll live your life in misery. Pole position, fastest car on the track, hopes are up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, clearly some people see us as a threat to win, so we're going to go out and just try and win the rest of them. Points aren't really up for grabs anymore with having missed Phoenix and then how last week at Indy went. So it's just trying to get race wins and see what happens from there.
You have any plans to talk to Seitz or Mitchell or that team and try to smooth things over before the next round so things don't escalate and carry over?
Not particularly. I'm just going to race them as hard as they've raced me.
Okay, we'll keep a very close eye on that. Should be fun to watch next time out. Who helps you get it done? Who are the sponsors that you couldn't do this without?
I got to give a shout out to everyone on Team Talent. Liam, Austin, Andrew, Nick, Dan, all put in a lot of practice this week, doing quite get the results for them that we wanted. Setup was, I'm going to toot my own horn here and say it's pretty good this week. It's the same one that's up on Craig's Setup Shop this week. And got to give the thanks to Wyatt Gooden, helping put a new rig together. And I think it helped with the consistency a little bit this week.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And chin up, no pun intended. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.
I promise I didn't mean to make that pun. Either way, Aussie is now standing by with our race winner.
Yeah, Greg Seitz here at the Victory Lane. First of all, it's a familiar place for you this season, but wasn't an easy race necessarily. Not quite the pace Josh Chin had, even though you were pretty much dominant in practice. So qualifying, did it go as well as you planned?
Yeah, I was just a little bit off the pace, and then as the track heated up, I started to drop off some more pace. But yeah, it was my pace has never been good here, honestly. So I was really happy to be where I was. And then the contact that Josh and I had, in the first lap was very unfortunate. I looked at the replay and we didn't actually touch. So I know he probably wasn't happy, but I had to race him because I had a feeling he was faster, and there's no reason for me not to pressure him there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. So Josh mentioned not being happy with the contact, probably understandable, and with the contacts he had in this race. And well, since you were in that P1 and you had Josh fall back at the early portion of the race, Josh coming back to the field, was there communication between you and your teammate Mitchell Green about Josh coming back and potentially trying to defend that second position a little bit harder than usual?
No, we didn't really talk. The only thing that I heard Mitch say was, that he screwed up when I guess he was going into the pits. I don't know why he ended up pitting there. I'm assuming that something had happened before that, but no, we didn't really. There was no intent to pressure him or anything there. There was literally no communication between me and Mitch until Mitch, essentially made his mistake.
Okay, well, glad we got that one cleared. Both sides of the story, always important. So Montreal ending up better than you perhaps anticipated, since you mentioned it's not one of your greatest circuits. How about next week? We got Sebring. Are you continuing your championship charge with another victory down at Florida?
I'm hoping for that. I think I do a little bit better there, so hopefully it'll be a better track for me than Montreal, which, like I said, traditionally has been a really terrible track. So I consider myself fortunate to come away with a victory here, but hopefully I'll be a little bit stronger there in Sebring.
Well, Greg, that was really great, and I don't really have any more questions for you. So who gets it done for you? Who brought you this race victory here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve?
I want to thank you guys first, and then PRL and the sponsors too for running the league. It's it's a great league and a lot of fun and a lot of competitive racing. And then, as usual, my team, Rust Racing, the guys work hard, practice together, and so yeah, I'm really happy with our practice sessions over the year. They've been basically really good, and I think everybody's improved because of it. So yeah, it's really fun. But yeah, it is. I do want to apologize to Josh for what happened on the track. It was unfortunate, especially with Mitch there.
Great sportsmanship there from Greg's side, and thank you, Greg, and good luck next week. And next, we're going to move to Ryan Jones, who is going to be interviewing our hometown hero and our final podium driver. Ryan?
Yeah, Declan, home in third place. Good race for you today. A lot of battles out there. How was that for you?
Well, it certainly kept things interesting when I wasn't checking my mirrors and trying to defend into the Wall of Champions. It was nice having to manage the pace near the end of the first stint. The tires kind of started to die off a little bit, so managing that was definitely keeping things interesting.
You mentioned the tires dying off at the end of the first stint. Did that affect how you went about things in the second half of your race?
Well, I came out of the pits with at least a 5-second gap on either side of me, so it was really just trying to, keep it within the white lines and keep it pointed the right direction. The tires definitely were kind of nagging at me, though. Near the end, I had a little bit of a moment in turn 2. I'm not sure if you guys caught it. But yeah, it definitely was a factor, but I think, Greg and Josh both kind of had the run of the field today, so I don't think a tire management strategy really would have changed that.
Yeah, those two definitely seem like the cars to beat. Obviously, you and your team have a big presence in this series, so what do you have to do differently to close that gap up to them and challenge them next time out?
I think more, team practice. Like, obviously, Brandon, Owen, and I have all been practicing separately, but I think more of putting up a hosted session just for us and practicing all together, bouncing ideas around, reviewing laps, stuff like that. I'm sure that's what those guys are doing, so we just kind of got to get to their level, I guess. I know we have the pace for it.
Certainly a podium, though, is nothing bad and a good result for you. Keeps your championship pretty much in the frame still. We still got over half the season still to run. What's your goal for the championship coming the end of the season?
Well, that's a great question. obviously, I'm sitting in third right now, holding on to that against the likes of Greg or Josh and the Rust Racing guys, all those guys, holding on to at least a top 5, if not a top 3. It's definitely a achievable goal for me.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye and see how that pans out. Hopefully, you can find the pace to challenge those guys next time out. Who are the sponsors that help you get this done?
Well, besides PRL, obviously the guys that put on the show, you guys, as well as ButtKicker, Formula Hypersoft News on Instagram is our media partner. Abruzzi Simulator Racewear hooked us up with some nice gloves and boots. G Performance, making sure we've all got the right gear, and Rosso Sim Racing for their team gear. So, thanks for the broadcast, guys. And that's it.
Hey, well, thank you for joining us, and hopefully we talk to you again next week. Good luck.
Thank you.
So that'll wrap us up for today. Another great addition to the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. We'll be back at the same time next week, right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Thank you to Simsa for their continued support of the series, and of course the organizer, Precision Racing League, for making not only this but all the leagues possible, as they get hosted here on the Global SimRacing Channel, who our broadcasts are only possible thanks to the companies that provide all the software and hardware for us, and June Londe, who as well provides all of our music. See the screen on how you can get a hold of any of them. And thank you to the team with me today. Joe, behind the scenes, Aussie, alongside me, and DJ Clark, pit reporting like a pro as well in his first broadcast. If you want to find out more about GSRC, you can find it over at globalsimracingchannel.com, or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Make sure to hit subscribe to us on YouTube so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Upcoming races are listed there on your screen, so check them out, mark them down in your calendar. But from all of us here in the booth, thank you for joining us, and until next time, it's race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.